Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, guiding you through the trails of Glacier National Park. And we have been talking with Jake Bramante from Hike734. If you listened to part one, you learned a lot about sort of the beginnings, stages, beginning phase of this project and everything that went into it and the community that rallied around it, and also some of the challenges, both mental and physical, that Jake went through. But we are going to talk some more in this episode about some of his specific experiences, some of his most memorable moments on the trails, and also kind of get into what he's done since then. He's done some great other projects and maybe what's coming next for you, Jake. So, Sarah, we recall some of this as we were on the periphery, kind of joining him in a couple of hikes and just kind of watching it happen. And it was incredible. But Jake, there's got to be things and we talked about this. Everybody said, what's your favorite hike in Glacier? Well, tell you what, go to the map because you have them ordered and you even say that. Like, if you're interested, where you should start, use the map. So, but it's a terrific resource. You've got to check that out. But Jake, we'll lead you into some of your more memorable moments, some of your trips that stand out. We've talked about that before. It's based sometimes on the conditions, sometimes on the trail, sometimes on the company. But if you can, just kind of throw out some of your more memorable moments on this.
Yeah, I definitely like to talk about moments on a trail. And I think that's, instead of just going like, oh, I'm just going to look at like my favorite trail or whatever. And to qualify, the rankings of my, more of the secret sauce, right, of my map, or maps is I try to go, if you don't happen to have one of those like amazing moments, what is the more objective goodness of the trail, right? So if the two trails are about the same length, same elevation change, but one of them is views all the way and there's a cool waterfall, I'm going to rank that one higher than others. That being said, some of my, we kind of alluded to this off air a little bit where, I had one of the hikes that I don't have ranked very high is Coal Fielding. So going from the Coal Creek Trailhead to the Fielding Creek Trailhead, which happens to be also the one for like Elk Mountain. And that day that I did that hike, I went pretty light because it was going to be a big day going up and down ridges into different drainages. And as I was hiking along, so I just had like my wide angle lens and, fairly fast pack. And I was really wiry. I was probably like, I'm guessing like 30 pounds lighter than I am now. Now I'm a little squishy, but as I was hiking along, I came to this meadow. And there was a meadow that was kind of going alongside the trail that intersected with the trail and then kind of broke off. So it came from the right and then it broke off to the right as well, further up. And I heard some noise to my right, and I was like, and I kind of looked around to see what was going on, and I could see that there was a couple of like black bodies, and I thought that it was like a black bear with a couple of cubs or something because they weren't necessarily huge, and so I just stopped, and I could see they were moving like kind of alongside me, but moving forward, and they were kind of, just moving forward. So anyways, I stopped and I waited, and all of a sudden like 3 black wolves just pop out, because they just followed the meadow right into the trail, and they just looked at me, and I was like, wolves, sometimes if people say like, I think I saw a wolf, you saw a coyote. Like just when you see a wolf, you're just like, that's a wolf, like straight up. Like if you see like, I think I saw a grizzly bear, it's like, generally speaking, if you see a grizzly bear, but if it could have been just a blonde black bear, but yeah. So anyway, so I see these 3 wolves. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got the wolves. And so I'm getting out my camera. They're not coming at me and stuff, and they just wheel around and they just take off running up that meadow that kind of works to the right. And I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. Like, oh my gosh. So I'm walking forward, and as I get close to where that intersection is, I can hear them up ahead of me, but then I hear one of them kind of lope back around. And so I was like, oh, they're checking me out here. And so like I got on my camera and I was like trying to, follow it through with my wide angle lens, which is worthless. And then it comes back out into that same spot before, and it stops because it sees that I'm just staring right at it, and then all of a sudden it like wheels around and takes off running. And then I had recently read Charles Schultz, who has a bunch of writings from the park, and some of them are, apocryphal and probably not even 100% true. But one of the things he says is that, these coyotes would just kind of yip and bark and whatever and stuff, but wolves are of a more regal nature that they only make noise when they need to make noise, kind of a thing. And so I could hear this one like kind of howl, and then the other ones responded, and then it was quiet. Like, and I could just hear them like running off. And so, I don't think that I did anything wrong because I didn't run. Running is bad at that point. And I just stood there, and they were like, oh, this is not something or someone that we want to mess with. And but wheeling around. And of course, like I just was buzzing for like the next 5 or 10 miles of having that experience. Now, would I recommend that you go out and do coal fielding? Probably not. Like, I mean, it is a cool, you go through a bunch of different things, but I don't think you're going to see 3 black wolves in the Mirror Creek drainage, most likely. So, once again, so those are some of those experiences that I had that, just happened to be for those, specific moments and were, incredible.
Yeah. Terrific trails all around, but special memories that are attached to them, you'll have forever, I suppose. Something does make you a little bit different, Jake, because anybody can go out and run the trail and grab the Strava segment and do it faster than the previous person, or whatever, some sort of record or goal that might rival somebody else's. But I think what we appreciate is your interest in the natural beauty. Some of the, I know you're involved nowadays in the Audubon Society, right? And and the way that you kind of seek to protect and preserve the park and educate, really. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, you already mentioned the wildlife, and you can bring up some other experiences if you want, but you seem to be quite interested in birds.
Well, yeah, that's an understatement. You can ask my wife. But yeah, I think, definitely not taking anything away from people that have better VO2 maxes than me, because I respect the heck out of that. Just recently, I think it was a year or two ago, Jordan Cash, he did a lot of trail running, and he did it in a couple of months. The dude was a beast, and I respect the heck out of that. And I love that there's a lot of different ways to explore the park, and that some people are going in there for flowers, some people are going in there for birds, some are just magic vistas, some people are going in for the physical challenge. Like I love that people are getting outside and doing those sorts of experience. And I think that there's a lot of channels and Instagram, there's just a lot of people that are out there. Everybody kind of has their like flavor or angle. For me, when I was doing my project, I was thinking I'm sharing this with other people, and obviously I'm going to do it in ways that are interesting to me. And so for me, just the natural world, growing up, I read Ranger Rick. My brother and I ran deer through the forest. We grew up bordering Forest Service property in Libby, and so we picked up snakes when we were kids, and there was tadpoles. We did all that kind of stuff. And I had we had a bird feeder, and I did some Christmas bird counts with a local wildlife biologist, and so I definitely had that sort of in my history. And then doing this project just awoken that in me, because I would video all these things, whether it was trees or birds or flowers or vistas or whatever, and then I would get home and I was like, I need to label them. And some of my early ones, like I labeled a spruce grouse, a dusky grouse. So don't use it as a field guide, especially my early work.
Those can be a little confusing.
They can be. I'm way better than I used to be. But yeah, so I ended up starting to just kind of deep dive into that, and the natural world, like it just awoken that naturalist beast within me and stuff. And now I'm an insufferable birder, and I just like to go out and see stuff. Yeah.
I think everybody wants to know, how many bears did you encounter, and were you ever worried about that?
I think that I would, at some point I was, you're always concerned about it. I think that that's one of the cool things about being in the park is that tingly that you get. Like I've hiked a bunch of other parks, and I miss the tingle. I feel like, and some people just, the tingle is like, that keeps them out of there. For me, just knowing that I could round a corner and see a moose, elk, bear, whatever and stuff is awesome. So I do enjoy that. The first bear I saw after starting in May was in August when I was in Many Glacier. Wow. So I saw black bears, but I didn't see any grizzly bears until I was well into my project. I never had like a negative encounter. Certainly the spookiest was when I was working my way up the Camas Creek drainage past, the infamous Trout Lake, and I was above Arrow Lake, and I could just see fresh diggings everywhere. And I, it didn't matter if I said "heyo" because they can hear as well as we can. And just so, anyways, I ended up jumping one, and it took off running, and I held back and stuff, but I could literally hear its claws like scratching the rocks as it was trying to get away from me, which just blows my mind that all 130 pounds of me or whatever I was at the time, like was just here, and here's this huge bear just trying to get away from me as fast as it possibly could, which was the right response for it as well, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that was probably some of the closest things that I had, but I never had any come at me. And I think that I ended up seeing maybe a dozen total, and that counts, a female and 2 cubs, watching them forage at 50 Mountain as the sun was setting, as they're digging for bulbs and stuff, which is just like one of those like magical just moments where you feel like you're in a David Attenborough flick.
Nice. Well, Jake, we got to take a short break here. Everybody stick with us. We've got a little more of our conversation happening right after this.
Trees with deep roots stand strong, and so do we. Freedom Bank has been rooted in Columbia Falls for over 20 years, serving the whole Flathead Valley with state-of-the-art banking. Whether you're banking from your cabin, campsite, or kayak, we've got you covered. Freedom Bank, rooted here, ready everywhere. We want to be your bank. Give us a call at 892-1776. Member FDIC.
Welcome back. We are the Hiking Fools. We have been talking with Jake Bramante from Hike734. Have heard so much and learned so much, and just it's been so entertaining. In addition to just kind of rich in sharing the experience, Jake, we appreciate you sharing so much about this project and other things. Sarah, what else do people need to know?
Yeah, we were just discussing, Jake, what was your longest stretch?
Yeah, my longest stretch for the project was, I think it was 8 days, and I'm trying to remember what the actual route was for that. I think it was a lot of, I'm trying to remember what all I had to clear out. I think that was like, part of that was like the Northern High Line. Maybe I started over at, as I'm trying to trace that one, I think I started out over at Packers Roost, which is on the way up to the Loop, not Packers Roost, the bar. That would have been.
That was after, maybe.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, but not that day. So I started and then went up Flat Top and then like to 50 Mountain, and then I think I went north from there, and then I did all of like all the Waterton drainage. So there's a Waterton Lake Overlook Trail. There's the Boundary Trail. So literally I walked along the boundary, went up to the Clear Cut, and then came back to Goat Haunt. And then I went south. When I did Swift Current Lookout, it was snowing on like an insane, just snowstorm up there. But I got to the top and I was like, well, I'm gonna have to come back and look at this one because I hear the views are awesome. They are, by the way. Swift Current Lookout, gorgeous, as you guys have talked about.
Oh yeah,
big,
one of our
big
favorites.
Fan fave, yeah. And then from there, then I dropped down into the Many Glacier, had a burger, fries, spent the night in the hikers one, and then I went out Pegan Pass. And so yeah, that was nice. It was an amazing. I saw more moose, grizzlies. I saw flush some ptarmigan. It was a really cool. But yeah, by the time I was done with that one, I was certainly, I was ready for some cotton sheets and a shower. So.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Now you've talked about it. There's so much that is unique about Glacier National Park, but you have ventured out. I mean, there's more to explore out there. We have a beautiful country with these beautiful national parks, and part of what you've done is kind of parlay this into adventures in other parks. And how does Glacier compare, or is it still your favorite? And you've explored some other areas though.
Yeah, once I finished the map for Glacier, I ended up pivoting to other parks, right? Because it was popular. I received a lot of great feedback, and I was like, well, maybe I should pivot and do this in other national parks. And we really are spoiled in the West because our parks in the West are fantastic. And so I kind of culled it down. You need the parks that are very hikeable, and where people are going to for my product to work, right? My map to work. I mean, the idea is to I don't do this for charity. I do this to sell maps. And in order for it to actually make sense, where you print a lot of them, you need to go to parks that have that are overwhelming. So when you go there, you're like, oh my gosh, where am I going to go? Like there's, like with Glacier, right? We have Mini Glacier and Two Medicine. And so when you go to Yosemite, there's the Yosemite Valley, and there's Wawona, and there's Tioga Pass, and there's all these areas. And so it's like, well, where do we start? I need some help here, right? And so since then I've done 6 other parks. Obviously, the first one that made sense was Yellowstone. Actually, the first one was Zion because it was smaller, and we had just visited it. Kristen and I had visited it for our anniversary, and so we went back down there, and I hiked some more of that, and we hiked all the trails for a day hike. So all these other parks that I did, I created a spreadsheet of day hikes, and that was a generous list because there were some days where I was hiking 24, 25 miles a day as things moved on, just to see would I consider this actual even kind of a practical day hike for people that aren't trail ultra people, right? So so I did Zion first after Glacier, and then I did Yellowstone, and then Tetons, and then from there I did Yosemite, and then I did Olympic, and then Rocky Mountain National Park. Yeah, and by that point, what the way that my life looked like for the handful of years that I did that was, in the winter, I would go ahead and create a punch list of all the different day hikes in a spreadsheet, and then I would go down there. We ended up buying a camper van to do this, and I would drive the camper van in the spring, which would be like May, June-ish, and then I would hike for 7 to 10 days, and then I would drive it to the airport, and then I would fly back, in the extended parking. I would fly back home for a week or so, then I'd fly back down there, and I hike for another 7 to 10 days, just checking off all these different hikes. Videoing. That was really my notebook. Was more the videos of it, because in those videos I'm talking to myself. I'm like, boy, still climbing up this hill. Can we buy a switchback, people? Shout out Olympic National Park. They need more switchbacks in Olympic. But yeah, so then I just would do that all summer long, and then I would drive the van back home, and then I would spend the winter, just creating the map using the data that I from the Park Service and highway transportation and stuff that I had, and then write the descriptions and shout out to Kristen, because I would write these descriptions thinking, this is like Hemingway level stuff. I'm really capturing it. And then Kristen would read this and she's like, I don't even know what you're trying to say here. And I'm like, give me that. And I'd read it and I'm like, I don't know words. And so then I would be like, let me workshop this again. And then, and then just trying to rank them based upon, like you said, the objective data that we have and stuff. And so, I was very fortunate to finish Rocky Mountain, which was really my last park that I was really on my radar. Smoky Mountain National Park really makes sense for me as well, but I don't know if I could spend an entire summer hiking there, because I just don't like bugs and humidity and trees, and just solid trees. Tree hiking is fine, but I just don't know if I could do an entire summer of that.
Jungle. It's a jungle there.
Yeah, and bugs. Oh, the bugs. It's good for warblers, but not for Bramantes. I got those.
Cool. Yeah, extended project developed into something pretty remarkable. So Jake, today forward, what have you been up to recently?
I spent a lot of time in the park doing citizen science work, which is really fun, and certainly one of my passions. I help volunteer with the Harlequin duck surveys and mountain goat studies and that kind of stuff, and so that's really kind of my fun passion. The other thing that I've done recently is I've always wanted to turn my map into an app. When I structured it, I've always felt like if you could filter this out, where you could say, I want to hike 5 to 10 or 10 to 15 miles into Medicine, give me a list of those hikes. I've always felt like it would make an awesome app, and I just have not had the opportunity to do so, just from a financial standpoint. And then with some of the coding agents that are out there, and my computer background, I spent the entire winter just converting my all of my stuff into an app. And so now I have it out now currently for Glacier and Yellowstone. And so you can download those for free on the App Store. And the entire map is available in the top 5 hikes. And I think especially for those who already have my physical map, that's probably all that you need. And then you can go ahead and unlock it for a one-time whatever and purchase. And so I'm very excited about it. I also love having hiking apps on my phone because sometimes you want to know where your location is, and sometimes you don't want to have all these. But Tetons are going to be next. I'm almost done with that. I'm hoping to actually submit it to the. By the time this airs, actually, the Tetons should be on the App Store, and then after that, I've got the other parks that I'm going to be pumping out. So.
Super cool. Maps to Apps project. Jake,
Maps to Apps.
We have appreciated so much your time to talk to us and share a lot with our listeners. Sarah, we just got to thank him.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. We're so excited this summer that we should definitely get out there together. It's been far too long to hit the trail together. Yeah.
So thanks again to Jake Bramante from Hike734. Check out all the resources that he has provided the rest of us. And also check out our Instagram page at HikingFoolsMT to see some great photos from our recent adventures. Tune in next time. Check out more episodes online. And remember to follow us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sarah.
And we are the Hiking Fools, encouraging you to always go.